I have always thought, and I'll start with Sophie. I have always thought that doing horror movies are probably the most fun kind of film to act in. Is that true?
I would say, I mean, they're very fun. I think they all films have their merits, but this in particular was a delight. I mean, it really was. It's fun to play someone who we think she's one thing and then she proves to be something very different, and that's always what a dream for an actress.
Aidan, how did you get involved with the production? Was there an audition process, or did you just kind of they looked at you and said, "You're it"?
No, so for me, it was Sean is a friend of mine, Sean Seraphin, the brilliant, talented writer that he is. He actually cast me in one of the very first films I worked on when I moved to Los Angeles called Forest of the Living Dead. And I met him through auditioning for that. And then I was lucky enough to work with him on that. And then after that, we just formed a great friendship and worked together on plays. He directed me in like 4 plays after that. And then we were just sitting in our dining room, in my dining room table, just wondering if we could work on something together, and especially something that we could make with a relatively small budget and do it in one location for logistical purposes. And that was the initial idea of The Believer. And then Sophie is a longtime friend of mine from acting class, and we had always talked about possibly working together on something. And I had Sean and Sophie meet, and then the rest is history.
Uh, Knowing Sophie from acting class, and I'll, obviously, I've got to bounce back and forth like a ping pong ball between the two of you, but knowing each other, is there an automatic shorthand you guys have from working in acting class?
Yeah, I thought so. I think that we had worked on some scenes together in class, so we kind of knew how each other worked, and we had taken direction from our acting teachers at that point as well. So we knew what it was like to work in that environment where there's a director giving us direction. And then also me and Sophie had the benefit of rehearsing for almost like 4 or 5 months prior to filming with Sean, just in Sophie's apartment. And in Sean's apartment, just doing rehearsals every single week for multiple months. And that just created a shorthand, but also a comfort on the day of shooting, because we were shooting so many pages a day, or the performances kind of had to be like locked in for the most part.
Yeah, Sophie?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I was actually. I would say that the rehearsal process was some of my favorite moments. Working on this film. Obviously, shooting was fantastic, but it was short. It was. I think we had was it 13 days, Aiden? 14 days?
Yeah, I think it was like 14 days of principal, and then a couple of pickups and like some reshoots. So I think total of no more than 20 days total.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it was a very quick shoot, and it was mostly just the two of us. So, yeah, I loved it. I loved, it's quite, it's dialogue driven, it's character driven, but there's a good chunk of dialogue. And I thought, I mean, it was just so much fun to excavate, part of the joy of theater of acting class rather, and of theater is the rehearsal process and getting to sort of flex and try lots of different no like go trying different ideas, going through sort of taking Sean's notes, adjusting, flexing, trying different things on for size. It was really fun, and I mean, we learned quite a bit. That's the writing. I think that I have to. I mean, it's so much fun to be able to sort of chart the emotional journey of someone who sort of starts one way and then she sort of changes. But that I sort of attribute that to Sean and the writing and the directing of Sean. I as an actor, you can only do as much as you're given in the script. And that was sort of a dream from when I read it. I was like, this is such a gift. So yeah, that was probably single-handedly the reason why I wanted to play this role the most, is because of the sort of emotional depth.
Aidan, because this is really a family kind of environment that you've known these people. Was there opportunity to go off script? Did you create as you went? Is Sean the type of director that allows you to go off the page?
Yeah, I mean, I've had experiences with him in the theater, and yeah, there's definitely more things that he's more malleable in that atmosphere for sure. In this film, we just because of our budget and how much time we had to shoot, it was logistically not as possible. Like we did explore some things in rehearsal, and that led to some rewrites and stuff like that. But for the most part, when we were filming, everything was pretty locked in, and we just yeah, when you're shooting like 12, 13 pages a day and trying to just get through your day, you lose a little bit of that flexibility. But there was a little bit of that in rehearsal. But for the most part, I think me and Sophie both just gave our trust to Sean that he had a vision that he kind of knew in his head was going to work. And so when he gave us direction, for the most part, I didn't really question much. Like there was a couple times where I remember the character, how I saw it, didn't necessarily go the direction that he was like maybe giving me, and I would speak up then. But for the most part, I just delegated to him.
Sophie, when audiences experience The Believer, what do you think they're going to pull away from with the movie?
Great question. Don't judge a book by its cover. I mean, I don't know. I think that, I guess my hope is that they're sort of transported into sort of a world that they're taken out of their circumstance. That's why we love entertainment. That's why we love movies, is that it sort of catapults us into a different world. We understand, we get to understand other people who don't seem maybe on the surface like ourselves, and they become a little bit more empathetic, compassionate as a result. But I think or we can become a little bit more compassionate and empathetic as a result. But I don't know. I just think it's a fun movie. And if we can sort of scare our audiences and give them a little treat, then that's the joy, that's the hope. I'm actually curious to know what Aidan would say.
Aidan, yeah, I'll bounce it back to you. What do you think audiences are going to pull from the film?
Yeah, I think the movie in general caters to people who love to guess what the ending of the film is going to be as they're going along, and that type of investigation. So I think we cater to people who like that sort of guessing journey. And as far as like a takeaway from it, I don't want to ruin the ending, but there is kind of like what I feel is like a surprise ending. And so I'd like to think that most people aren't going to guess what the ending is and how everything ultimately plays out. And so I'd like for them to just be surprised, but also fulfilled, like they had a fulfilling journey of trying to figure out the breadcrumbs as they're going along, but ultimately being shocked that it isn't at all what they expected.
Yeah, and that was the beauty of the film for me, was it had a very Hitchcock, Rod Serling kind of approach to it, with a lot of twists. And I love a film where you don't know exactly where you're standing at any given time.
Yeah, that I'm glad you felt that way, and thank you. Those are really kind words. That was our hope with the film, that it would give you enough things to try to chew on and guess as you're going through, but not enough to like lose you or get you disinterested or disengaged. So that's the fine line that we're trying to balance on.
Aidan, Sophie, thank you so much for your time today. I know it's short, and we want to get you going into your afternoon and having dinner and all that. So you guys take care. It's a great film, The Believer. It's on all video on demand platforms, I believe.
Yeah, we were really lucky. We got the entire PVOD market. So anyone who has any sort of cable or iTunes or any of those platforms will be on.
Good. If you like a good creepy horror film, this is it. And again, thank you both for being part of the show.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks for having me.